hostess, and this here may be tough to you. Snack cake to me, yeah, more hostess. This been overdue forever. Asked me when it was dropping, said never. Should've made you cut the feta, but I designed it Freemason Margiela.
What's good, Shellitronnn here, the most woke, no joking. I'm back again with a brand new video, and I'm gonna keep it a bold bread biscuit here. This video right here could be about 30 seconds long, but if you've been watching my channel for a while now, you know that I like to go into detail with these videos, and I like to err on the side of giving too much information rather than too little. So I'll give enough context here to make sure there's no doubt in your mind at all what the real answer to this question should be. And that question is, should the Panthers consider picking up free agent, free safety Eric Weddle? And since the news just broke yesterday that the Ravens has pretty much cut Eric Weddle, I've been seeing just about everywhere, oh man, this is going to be a great signing for someone. This is a big name. The free safety market and the safety market in general for this offseason is going to be big. I mean, the safety market last year was kind of interesting, but a little bit lackluster. This year's safety market is going to do numbers. There are enough guys out there, and enough guys who had one-year contracts last year who are back in the market, who had prove-it deals. I think just about everyone who had a prove-it deal last year proved it. But we're going to focus here on Eric Weddle. Now, Eric Weddle is a name that most people should know. He's, for the most part, been one of the better free safeties in the league. He came into the league in 2007, so he's been in the NFL for about 12 years now. And the biggest point of focus for him, for a lot of Panthers fans, is his connection with Ron Rivera. Coach Rivera was the defensive coordinator for the Chargers from 2008 to 2010. And obviously the next year, in 2011, he became the head coach of the Panthers. But it was those 3 years between 2008 and 2010 where Eric Weddle showed a lot of promise, building up to his first-team All-Pro and Pro Bowl year in 2011, where he had 7 interceptions. But from 2008 to 2010, he had some really good years. I mean, in 2008, he had 127 tackles, 5 passes defended, an interception and a fumble recovered for a touchdown. In 2009, he had 82 tackles, 7 passes defended, 2 picks, and 1 return for a touchdown. In 2010, he had 96 tackles. He had 10 passes defended, 2 interceptions, and 1 was a pick 6. So he had some pretty good years under Coach Rivera. And Coach, you know, sometimes you get really attached to the guys that you see grow up and get better as they're younger. And you see them still have good years even after you leave. You might be thinking to yourself, okay, we have a connection. We need a free safety, and I can maybe bring him in now in the later part of his career and still get something out of him. But I don't think that's really the case here with Eric Weddle. And Eric Weddle, you might be thinking to yourself, wait, why not? Because Eric Weddle made the Pro Bowl last year, right? Didn't Eric Weddle make the Pro Bowl last year? But I think for most people, we understand the Pro Bowl isn't really the best litmus test for just how talented a guy is. There are guys who have amazing seasons who don't make the Pro Bowl, and there are guys who have lackluster seasons who do make it. So it's like kind of an unbalanced kind of thing. And I can talk about Eric Weddle's stats themselves to bring up this point. I mean, no interceptions, 3 total passes defended, 68 combined tackles, and 1 sack on the season. Those don't really sound like Pro Bowl numbers to me. And I could go through the list of all the free safeties in the NFL who had a better season than him. And I could really just narrow that down to free safeties in the AFC who had better seasons than him. I mean, we can just go down the list here. Talk about Kevin Byard from Tennessee, who had 4 interceptions last year, 13 passes defended, 90 tackles. That's a good year. Jordan Poyer from the Bills, who had 100 tackles, 4 interceptions, 10 passes defended. That's a good season. I mean, we can really go down the list and talk about all these guys in the AFC who had better seasons than him and probably should have been in the Pro Bowl over Eric Weddle. But I think the best way to put this into a context that most Panthers fans can understand just what kind of guy Eric Weddle is at this point in his career will be to talk about it in terms of a guy like Mike Adams. Now, looking at Mike Adams' stats from just last year, 75 combined tackles, 3 interceptions, 9 passes defended. Compare that again to Eric Weddle's stats of 68 total tackles, 3 passes defended, no interceptions. And for the most part, from what I've seen from my comment section and from other places, just about every single Panthers fan wanted to get rid of Mike Adams. And from what I can tell from comments on my videos, things I've seen on Twitter, things I've seen on other places where people talk about the Panthers, the reasons why Panthers fans were okay with getting rid of Mike Adams are basically the same reasons why the team should not pick up Eric Weddle. Now, the first thing to do here is identify the reasons why people did not want to keep Mike Adams. They said he was slow. They said he got burnt in coverage. They said that he's just not athletic anymore and he lost a step. And, you know, he's just not putting up the stats that we really need. But from what I've been seeing from Ravens fans, they all say the same thing about Eric Weddle. He's not fast anymore. Near the end of the year, he was getting burnt up the seams, and he cannot tackle. From what I've been reading about Eric Weddle is he would always get himself in position to, like, tackle a running back, but he would get trucked every single time. They said that he was a liability in tackling. And with how good the Ravens front seven was this past season, there wasn't very many times running backs were getting past that front. But when there was a lapse in that, you would think that they would hope their third level protection could, get a stop somewhere. But from what I've been seeing from Ravens fans, just about every time he went up like one-on-one against a running back, the man got trucked. It was just a bad day for that man going up against running backs. And it just got to the point where the guys loved him there, but he just was a liability in just about every phase of the game that a free safety has a responsibility in. And honestly, I don't see it being much different here. And I don't know how much value and how much of an uptick in production you can get out of a guy by bringing him back with a coach he had 9 years ago. And it wasn't even the secondary coach, it was a defensive coordinator. So, I'm not sure just how much that connection is really going to have an impact on Eric Weddle's game, especially this late in his career. I know we're kind of desperate right now, and things look pretty dim right now for free safeties. It's like, do we overpay for a guy in free agency, a guy like Earl Thomas, or maybe even Landon Collins? Or do we go for guys who are, smaller or may not even fit our scheme? Maybe like a guy like Kenny Vaccaro again, which that should not ever happen. Or Tyrann Mathieu, who had a good season last year, but I'm still not a really big fan of Tyrann Mathieu for our scheme, honestly. Or do we use one of our first 4 picks in the draft on a free safety, which is pretty big capital to use. Both of those can be seen as a potential risk depending on the way you look at it. Do you want to find a guy in the 3rd round who may or may not pan out? Or do you want to spend a lot of money on a guy who will pan out, but you're kind of strapped for money now? I think I'm leaning more toward finding a guy in the draft just because of what Coach Rivera said and just about what everyone's been saying about getting younger and faster on defense. Eric Weddle is neither one of those things, and I think that we can afford to try to find someone in the draft. And I really think that free safety is a position where we don't need to find top of the line talent there. If we can find someone who's just above average, a guy who might not have highlight plays every single game, but also won't be the reason why you lose games, I think we find a guy like that will be straight for right now, and a guy who can grow into his role and grow along with the team, because our whole secondary is young. James Bradbury, we have Dante Jackson, even Eric Reed is a pretty young guy. What is he, like 25, 26? He's not an old guy back there. So I feel 100% comfortable with trying to find a young talent, and no matter how you split it, even if we could find a veteran kind of guy out there, Eric Weddle is not the choice, no matter how you look at it. The man got into the Pro Bowl, I'm not sure off his name alone, because there was multiple guys. It was just about every single free safety in the league had better stats than Eric Weddle. I don't understand how this man got to the Pro Bowl, but the man's had a pretty good career so far. I think he would fit better for a team that needs a stopgap kind of guy, someone who can fill in for a year or two, and then they can find their guy later on. I think right now for our defense, we're trying to build on our defense right now. We don't want to go into the free agency, pick up a guy, and draft a guy as well in the same year. Or, have to find a guy this year, find another guy next year, and do all that kind of stuff. And if you remember, picking up an older guy in free agency who has some Pro Bowl years in the past is exactly what led us to Mike Adams. 2 to 3 years before we picked him up, he was a Pro Bowler. And do we really want to deal with this carousel coming back around in 2 years? I don't think so. But what are your thoughts? Should the team pick up Eric Weddle? What are some guys in free agency or the draft at free safety you're looking at? What is the right move for the Panthers to make? Free agency or the draft? Or is the guy that we need already on our team? Let me know in the comments below. And you already know to do that like button.
Cheers to you, appreciate the chance. Being told y'all I been the man. Being told y'all I had the gift. Tell a friend, real ones gonna recommend. Count this as another win.